Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the 66th Think Tank. We're back after our summer break, and I think for some of us it's been quite an eventful summer. This week we're going to have a quite informal week. We're just sort of going to get back into the flow of things quite slowly, and we have this big idea, well, it's a big idea about small ideas. It's about how to make adventures and settings smaller, effectively. So we're going to talk about that in a few moments. Right now, I'm going to tell you to subscribe because we do this all the time. So just subscribe and you'll get it again. And we'll get onto some chunk of a meat of a meeting in a few moments. But first, Pat, would you like to tell us about your summer? Because I think you've got some news, haven't you?
Yeah, we tidied the living room. Oh, we had a baby. There was a baby. There's a baby who lives in my house now.
Someone's entrusted you with another human being.
I didn't just have a baby and my hair fell out. That was a different thing. I shaved it all for charity. But yes, there is a baby who lives in my house. There he is. His name is Rowan, and he has the same surname as me, which is a big coincidence.
That's amazing. Hello, Rowan. Rowan, isn't it? Yes.
Rowan, yes.
Yes. Hello, lovely, big baby.
What's he now?
He was £11.11 last time he was weighed.
And what was it, 4 weeks? 5 weeks?
6 weeks.
6 weeks. Well, congratulations mostly to Emily, who I have to say I always think does most of the hard work in these situations.
2 when he came out.
And well done both of you. It's fantastic, the next generation of 66 writers and artists.
Right.
Oh, and if you haven't noticed, Pat is suffering from sleep deprivation, mostly associated with a small child in the background.
It's the work days that are killing me at the moment.
Oh. Yay! Bye, thank you, Em. So Pat, yeah, you've had a good summer. What about you, Josh? What's your summer been like?
Gonna make
Well, I also got shaved, but in a field. It's a long story. It involves 7 different people and 5 different cutting implements. Suffice to say, it's now an amusing story in the con circuit. Speaking of which, I went to 3 separate events in so many weeks, and even to this point now, like a month later, I'm still feeling the financial effect of all this.
Yeah, it's laughing, isn't it?
LARP and 2 separate anime conventions. Although I say that, I use that in the loose sense of I went there to go and get drunk with a couple of mates in a hotel and a field, respectively. It was good fun.
That's generally my convention experience as well.
Only got rained on the once, which I was quite happy about. Yeah, but other than that, work, bit more work. My friend got me some weird Japanese sweets. Getting complained at by totally not just been fed 20 minutes ago piggies, and procrastinating a whole lot on stuff I should be doing.
Well, that's life, isn't it?
Oh yeah, that's adult life anyway. They don't tell you this is school, do they?
No, you'd just give up, wouldn't you? You knew this shit when you were a child. You just refused to grow up. Well, I've had a good summer. It was nice having a break, and it's nice to be back. I got away to one festival, which was good. You know, that weekend, when we had really hot weather, sort of June and July, and then we had that weekend where basically you had a month's worth of rain in one day. That was the weekend I was at a festival. It was a great festival, and we did have some great weather, but it did get a little bit wet on Saturday. But yeah, I had a nice break. I've been working, and I've now finished my contract. So for the next 3 or 4 months, I'm going to be concentrating again on 66 full time. And the big news is I'm doing that because we're doing the Kickstarter for 66 Hellenic. It's going to basically run in November. Exact dates to be determined, and obviously we're going to be sending out a shitload of information about it over the next few weeks, so stay tuned. So that's how we've been. I think everyone's had a sort of reasonably good summer for certain definitions. So let's move on. What we want to talk about is micro settings and micro adventures. we've got a very specific goal here. It's a very selfish goal, and that is demonstrating the 66 system online. We want to do videos where we get people to play the 66 system, and people who haven't played it before, and we teach them, and then people can watch these videos. Now the trouble is, a 4, 5, 6 player game is actually really hard to organise on the internet. There's lots of time zones. Technology is unreliable. For some reason, online gaming is more unreliable. It's more likely people drop out. And especially if we want to because we'd like to get podcasters and that sort of person involved, it's really hard to arrange times. So we're thinking, well, can we do micro adventures? A one-to-one demonstration, so the GM and a player, and something which takes a 20-minute slot, because we figure that's fairly easy for most people to fit in that day, and also it's a more manageable thing to watch, because personally I don't want to watch 3 hours of somebody else playing a game. That's not how I get my kicks. I know there are people out there who do, but it's not me. But 20 minutes, I'd sit down and watch an interesting game system for 20 minutes, and I think that's what we've got to aim for. So that's sort of the goal. Come up with some sort of way of doing this, some micro adventures, micro settings, whatever we want to call them, and run them for people. So we had this idea before the summer. We've had a few weeks to think about it, and we've sort of come back to now knock those ideas around and see if any of them's got legs. So, Pat, Josh, what are your thoughts, on the sort of what we're trying to do, and sort of initial ideas?
I did have. It sounds like a very basic thing to say, but it did occur to me. Regen characters are going to be a must if we're first introducing to these players. I mean, you don't want to sit there for 40 minutes going, "This is what you could do. This is what you could have." You want to get them straight into the action. So I was thinking, as if you have 3 distinct characters, say like a heavy person, a sneaky person, and a social person.
Mm-hmm.
In the setting, there's 3 paths you could take. I mean, you could take on either path with any of the characters, but you'll have an easier time, say, using brute force if you're the big guy, or trying to persuade your way past, say, a kidnapper if you're the social person. Like, you could light your bollocks off. So first things first, you'll have to have a pre-gen set of characters. So these are your characters. Choose which one you think sounds good. Don't pay too much attention to their stats, to their keywords. Just go with what looks interesting.
Dive in. Pat, a thought on this?
Well, firstly, I was just going to say, the amount of characters I don't think should be a set regulated thing. I mean, it should differ from type of thing to thing, and certainly I don't think if you've got a better approach to do something, then having the characters all be good at it is not the worst idea in the world. I mean, you're not doing a whole full game, so having 3 fighty characters isn't the worst idea if you're going to have a fight,
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I think this thing is, there's one point there about not making this rigid, because we want ideas which work, not which ideas which fit in a particular pattern. But I think the idea of having a limited set of character choices which are apt for that particular adventure makes a lot of sense. Whether that's 3 or 5 for a particular adventure. But they do need to be simple. You need to be able to say to someone, this one's the fighter type, this one's the cleric, this one's the whatever, and they just immediately click onto that trope. Josh?
On the subject of keywords, I mean, you're going to have sometimes have generic keywords, because we're going to be showing that we do have keywords that can be used in different ways. I mean, good example being brawny. Brawny can then be applied to either like an action to move something, because your character's brawny, they can move this, or your character's brawny, thus makes your intimidation roll better.
Mm.
So a few of them are going to have to be the ones that you can go, all right, how can we use this one in different situation?
Yeah, I think what's clear is that we've got to be very careful about the character design, and the adventure design, because we want it to be something any of the characters can do, though we don't necessarily want it to be something they're guaranteed to do, because part of the system might be showing how a character dies. The important goal is obviously to demonstrate the system, so we want to introduce a reasonable level of mechanics into the system, don't we? Into the sort of play. So yeah, we need that side of things needs quite a lot of thought. I think you sort of mentioned, Josh, about the sort of the structure of the adventure. There, you sort of like 3 different routes, and almost sort of like a multi-choice approach. Are you thinking?
Yeah. So if you pick the heavy character, you overpower the mysterious stranger who turns up. If you're the sneaky character, you then find a hidden exit, and you can start sneaking your way out of the room or wherever it is you've ended yourself up in, while being chased by, say, the mysterious stranger. The narrative's gone in a completely different route. You've gone from a mysterious stranger who could be taken down to a mysterious stranger who's suddenly this thing you cannot be caught by. Because if you get caught, you don't know what's going to happen, so you best leg it.
Yeah, it's thought. We've got to bear in mind we also, the time limit we're trying to set on here, that it needs to be a very simple setup, so the person can get the character, get a sense of what that character is, and actually get a sense of their setting within 5 minutes, because we can't afford to spend more than 5 minutes on the pick your character, here's where you are situation. We can't have 20 minutes of explaining the backstory or anything like that. So we're going to be very cognizant of the time limitations.
Yeah. No, go on, Pat.
I was just going to say, yeah, a good descriptor makes sense, and just not too complex keywords. In fact, I'd say try and keep it as close to core system as possible. Like even keep magic out, if at all possible. Unless it's like everyone's got magic, and then it's something that's across the board.
Yeah, so yeah, we've got to go simple. So yeah, it's going to be. I think designing those characters is going to be quite tricky because we've got to balance lots and lots of different factors. Yeah, what about the sort of how long does 20 minutes give us? Actually, if we have 5 minutes of setup, if we've got 15 minutes for the character to develop the scene and finish it and come to a conclusion, how much can you actually get done in 15 minutes? I mean, around your gaming table, what do you manage to achieve in 15 minutes?
Bearing in mind, my group they're all comprised of newbies. These guys have only a real basic idea of how the game works. I mean, yes, they've been doing it for a year now, and we do it fortnightly. I mean, they're getting better, but some combats can still take upwards of 1 hour, hour and a half to go for it because they're still not sure how to work it. Something I think I need to drill into them, but that's a different point entirely. But if you've got an entirely new system, for example, I recently got into Fate Core, and it's taken me a while to get the grasp of the mechanics. This is a completely new system that this player then has to learn. So you've got to be. The maximum is going to be one scene. Like, how do you? I think the example you gave was you're running away from somebody. You hide in running away from something. You end up in a room, and then this person turns up. The counter will probably just be how you deal with this person, be it social combat or getting out of there, maybe. Mm-hmm. So it's going to have to be relatively simple. No majorly complicated. As Pat said, roles, but
yeah, I mean we'll have to do without figures and battle mats and stuff. So even any sort of like combat's going to have to be fairly loose. And I think from a GM point of view, we could be quite lax about exactly which rules we imply, as long as we sort of get the basic idea of these are different advantages. You can mix them together. There's this thing about potential which might limit you. In certain circumstances, and what else would we want to get across? Oh, I suppose keywords. The basic concept that different keywords give you different powers. Might be important one to get across. But I suppose it's the potential and the advantages side of things is what we want. So as long as we demonstrate that side of the system, the details don't really matter, do they?
You'd probably have to introduce the fact that when you get hurt, you lose life cards. Because that's one of the biggest things. There's no hit points in this game. It's life cards. So that's going to have to be introduced, certainly.
Yeah, we want to demonstrate the game's flexibility because we don't want it just to be a combat demonstration. We don't want it to be you have to fight this person you meet in this room. So maybe you can talk to them, and we need to demonstrate some of the game mechanics to do with talking to people as well. And things like, and the whole setup has to allow these different solutions to the problem. So we can't say, oh, we have to show taking damage because they might never need to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think those basic concepts of potential use and mixing advantages, they're the sort of like the fundamentals of the system, and I assume what we need to get across.
Mm-hmm.
So what about, I mean, I came up with a little bit of an idea during the summer about a sort of a scenario which could work meeting some of these criteria, where the player is someone, they're on a run from, they're in a city, they're on the run from the authorities, they're being chased, they've ducked into this dark doorway, shut the door behind them, and they hear the signs of pursuit pass them by, but still they're still close, but they're not in immediate danger. And then they realise they're in this dark room, and there's something else in there. And that's sort of like as far as I took the idea, because I thought, well, that could go into combat, it could go into talk, it could go into discovery. But I was thinking, what other sort of setups could we have? What other scenarios can we think of?
Well, I've got one here that I actually wrote pretty much after we mentioned it the first time. But it's a little like setting specific, but it's essentially set in a game where a universe where kind of think like Stargate but with other universes. There's these guys who go to other worlds, and there's these things which essentially are trying to kill universes. So you start in another universe after it's started to collapse. And from there you have a choice of different things to do. You've got like either you can try and escape yourself, or you can try and assist another team to escape. You can try and take out the people responsible, or you can attempt to reassert, your local reality. And you've got very short amount of time to decide. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, I was just thinking, actually it would be quite different rather than sort of having the player sort of locked in a room with an unknown force. If you just made this setup something very simple, you and the team you're responsible for, half a dozen NPCs or whatever, have just been stranded in a different galaxy. You've got no way back. You've got a year's amount of supplies. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose that sort of...
Well, I like the idea of you having multiple things you can do, but a limited amount of time to do them in, because it's going to bring people back to go, oh, I want to try the other thing, if you get me.
Yeah, so as go down that sort of, again, that multiple choice, and that sort of like choose your own adventure style is sort of workable. I suppose the question is about how blatant we make that. Do we say, well, you can do this or that, and basically feed the player the options, or do we write it and then let the players, and just anticipate the most likely courses and have them prepared in advance, but leave it to the player to sort of work it out themselves? Do you think making it obvious is a good thing, or do you think we should disguise the mechanics of the story?
I don't know. I mean, the thing is, with that short amount of time, I think it's important. I think it might be actually better to be on the nose.
Look, to be absolutely open, yeah.
Go, look, these are the things you can do. And if they do go, oh well, we want to try this, then fine. Part of role-playing is creativity. You reward them for the creativity. But they've got 15 minutes still to do it. If they want to do a highly convoluted plot where they like lure the enemy to the reality anchor and kill two birds with one stone, they can try it. They've got 15 minutes before the universe collapses. It's things like.
I suppose that's another question along similar lines about the time factor. We as players, we'll know that we've got a schedule to stick to. Do we put a story time limit? Like you're running out of oxygen. You can only effectively make so many moves, or the bomb's going to go off, or whatever it happens to be. A countdown, which is part of the narrative.
I like the idea of having a story timeline because it means that people won't be able at the end to go, oh, I want to keep playing. It's like, well, you can't. The universe is down, or the mummy's taken over the world, or the angels with plasma guns have come along and sorted everything out. Whatever.
Yeah, so that's quite. So we've got a nice criteria there of whatever scenario we come up with has to have an inbuilt timer which ends. There has to be a definite end of a scenario at the 20 minutes or possibly earlier if the player screws up or succeeds. And I suppose, therefore, what we want to do is obviously make it exciting by trying to shape the adventure so that they are definitely going to run out of time or be seriously against the clock.
It's like... So my idea before I read yours and realised, that's actually quite similar, was basically imagine Saw. Your character wakes up in a dark room, he gets lit up, he's like, you've got X amount of time to escape this room. You wait, these are the things you see in front of you. The character then, is that every game, in theory, should be played differently by player, because not every player is going to choose the same item in front of them.
Yes, so that would be a very... Saw's quite a good one, actually, because you can almost make it blatant. You chain to a radiator in a dark room, you've got a hacksaw which is just out of reach. Oh, by the way, the neurotoxins in you is going to kill you in 15 minutes. So that would actually make it quite a good idea.
It's on a vaguely related note, it's like back at one of my conventions I mentioned earlier, I played my first game of 5th Ed D&D, which essentially we did the same premise. Your characters all wake up in a room, and it's up to you to explore this dungeon and get out before something bad happens, as per like the phantasmal image. So yeah, I think it's as I quite enjoyed that. I think it should always be something short and small, nothing too story heavy. You're not going to introduce subplots. It's all going to be kept very, very simple.
And I think we've got to rely on tropes, so easy, recognisable, stereotype characters, which but we've also want to let people role play. We can say it's a fighter type, but basically everything else about them, their personality or whatever, their backstory, can be left to the player to fill in as they go along, but they just need to know, it's a fighter. So those hooks we hang things on.
It's just why, as Pat said, the keywords should be all simple. It's like, your character's brawny, but to you, why is he brawny? Is he brawny because he was born on a farm, say, maybe? Is he brawny because he's just built like a brick outhouse? It's entirely up to you, so that you fill in the details yourself. It's going to be probably kept quite generic.
I was thinking, just going back to the multiple choice sort of thing, or very limited options. I suppose that allows us to plan sort of how many moves. So we could time the dungeon on basically you've got 5 actions you can make, 5 rooms you can visit or whatever. Which sort of means we have to plan them quite carefully. Everything we've talked about, I think, says this is not just something you can throw together and make work. It's something which has to be actually written quite carefully and well thought out and tested as well.
The only problem, as I learned with my group, is preparation means nothing if your group goes, Angle, we could do this instead. This is all good. It's all down to the experience level of the person trying it. Like, say you got a person who's completely new to roleplay, they won't think to, this is how we can abuse this mechanic, or this mechanic sounds quite similar to this, so let's try this and manipulate that. like unlike maybe like an experienced role player could.
Yeah,
so we could.
I think in the player briefing, when we talk to the player beforehand, before going on air or whatever, we need to stress that obviously this is quite an artificial thing, and that they need to play along with it. We can't have you get those players who almost deliberately try to ruin things or have unplayable characters or whatever. We have to make sure that just doesn't happen. And if we're dealing with it, we're going to be dealing with experienced players, I think. So what about?
So if you got the, so if you've got the, go back to the sword thing. You got the guy who's like, oh, I'm going to try and cheat at this. The character inside the game is going to go, I don't like you cheating. And that's when you get shocked by the like ankle shackle. It's just you could possibly put it into a story-wise as to why you can't dick about with this.
Yes. Or we just say the GM always just makes it exceptionally hard. That doing anything against the ankle shackle is 66 resistance or something like that. Just moving on then. So we need to think back quite carefully about the characters and the format of the adventure and how we put them together. With that in mind, have we got? I mean, Pat, you've had that nice idea. Yeah, stranded on alien planet. We've got sort of like the Saw type arrangement where we sort of locked room, which is sort of again similar to mine. You run into a room and you're trapped with somebody else. What other sort of situations or settings could we do with this? Work with this format. I mean, it's a good one to raid lots of TV and movies at this point.
You're in the temple of the dread god Kaltor Tor. You've just destroyed Kaltor Tor, but his temple is about to fall down all around you.
Oh, what, the Indiana Jones running out?
I was thinking more Conan, but yeah. Indiana
Yes. That one's a so escape. So we've got so we've got stranded. We've got escape. A situation.
Mm-hmm. That easy. Just have a few.
The heist.
Heist.
How?
Yeah. Instead of breaking out, breaking in.
A jewelry store robbery.
Reservoir Dogs. Reservoir Dogs. You set up a situation actually after the robbery. You just say you've been involved in a heist. It's gone horribly wrong. You've come to the safe house. There's a madman cutting an ear off someone.
Giant chickens.
A lot of these are naturally quite enclosed environments. Single room. What about? Doctor Who have done several sort of locked room style episodes. Where they're sort of trapped on a spaceship. With it plunging towards the sun or whatever else.
Hang on, I'll just look, because I've got some stuff already written for micro settings, but they will for a different version of ideas, but I'll see what I can find.
Actually, low-budget films. What about The Thing? Something like The Thing, or Alien for that matter.
Yeah.
You're in a spaceship with a monster.
Yeah, something horrible is going to kill you. Get out of the spaceship. I was thinking, what about something like a serial killer? But you have to find them? I don't know.
It's tricky to do in 15 minutes, I would have thought.
Yeah, so you don't have to have all the clues right at the start.
Unless it's you may be investigating people. A good introduction to how the social role-playing can go down. You got several people in a...
The problem is we're showcasing the rules. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Well, you could do questioning a suspect. You've got the suspect. You're trying to make them break. You need them to confess. Otherwise, they're going to walk. That would be and then you've got the time limit of how long you can have them in the cells. So that one would work. Police interrogation or any interrogation, I suppose. What else sort of things where we get small numbers of people, closed spaces, submarines.
Minefield. That's the only what's come to my head.
A sinking ship.
Oh, that's a nice one. Titanic, yes.
Yeah. Get to the lifeboats. And you can have a monster there if you really want. Deep ones.
Well, that would be an interesting one, because you could do things like, which children do you rescue?
If only Emily were here.
It's probably a good thing she's not.
Titanic meets Sophie's Choice.
The sweet-looking one, or the one with tentacles coming out of its eye. What do you expect? Sorry. Yes.
Oh, I've just been looking over at my DVD shelf and I just saw Kung Fu Hustle. What about some kind of like Kung Fu movie? Could that work, do you think?
Kung Fu?
Yeah,
Tai Lung has escaped from prison.
I mean, I suppose it would be, if you just wanted a very fight-orientated one. I suppose one of the things we can do, actually, just jumping back, because we talked about having multiple characters to select. How about we do it the other way around? We have one character per adventure, but they get to select the adventure. So say, yeah, we've got this really fighty one, we've got this investigation one, we've got this space horror one, and they just go with what they like. And so therefore we can more tightly define it.
What else we got?
I like that idea. Just have a generic bunch of characters who aren't really within any genre, but just have basic skills.
Yeah, or no, have one specific character per adventure, but instead of choosing characters, our players choose the adventure effectively from the menu.
Person.
So I missed that, Pete. Pete?
I suppose that works if you're doing it with one person.
Yeah, well, that's the sort of format we're talking about, a sort of one-to-one. Because if you're not doing it one-to-one, 20 minutes is never going to cut it.
No, that's true.
Menu of adventures, yeah. But yeah, I mean, we could just have a straight-out fighty in different styles, and Kung Fu is a good way of showing melee and also potential damage, because stunning blows and things like that. So that would be an interesting one for demonstrating some mechanics, and just something somewhere where they have to make a few jumps and leaps and that sort of moving mechanic as well. So emphasise different things with that style with Kung Fu.
What about an Old West duel?
Ooh, yeah.
Or maybe something a bit more like the gunfight at the OK Corral type of thing.
Yeah, Western duel. That would be interesting, because I'm not sure quite how you'd do that.
Which in my Deadlands game, they actually got involved in the gunfight at the OK Corral. I don't think I ever actually realised.
I'm kind of glad it wasn't there for that one, because my character would have died.
Yeah, probably.
No good in gunfights.
So Western, what are the genres? Can we do something? Let's think of something completely horror, non-violent. Almost soap opera-ish. Japanese teenage high school type adventures. That sort of something which really shows a different side or the flexibility of 66. I mean, it's not a genre. That sort of genre I'm not knowledgeable on.
How about you're in a high school football game?
Ooh, yeah, sport. Well, sports, particularly high school sports.
Yeah, a sports game, and it's like you've got to get the most. Like, it doesn't matter what the points are. You've got to get the most impressive kind of goal, so that the cheerleader will go out with you.
Yeah, or we can think of possibly a slightly non-sexist way of motivating it. But something where you've got to get one over on a rival. Yeah, you just have to say there's a rival on your own team, and it doesn't really matter what the rivalry is over. You're sort of limited by the fact you're on the same team, but you also want to do them over.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like high school sporting game. That That would be an interesting one.
I just had another stupid idea. It's on a similar vein to the high school one. It's like pull the bigger prank. Can you fool your opponent into falling for whatever you set up, rather than you falling into theirs?
Cool.
I'm grasping at straws right now.
No. My immediate thought goes to John Belushi and University Animal House. Yes.
I got it from looking at Jackass, but close enough. That'll do. That's forgotten.
I just had a thought. What was it? No, it's gone on my head. Something else non-combat orientated. It will come back to me probably about 3 o'clock in the morning. So yeah, we've got lots of ideas, and I like the idea that we have a menu of adventures, and they choose from a menu of adventures rather than a menu of having one adventure and a menu of characters. Now that does mean we have to write more, because it's harder to write the adventures than it is to write the characters. But it would demonstrate the system better, because it would show a far greater range of settings and genres.
I think.
Go on.
So, just briefly on the idea of the menu, is that if we just show them like an A4 sheet of paper and it's just got all the titles, and then you push one sentence underneath it describing it, it's like the drugs bust. Can Walter White make his drugs and get them past the DEA?
Cannonball Run, drug smuggling. Oh, that was the idea. Yes, it was along the same lines. I was thinking Mission Impossible. You've got to break into the CIA headquarters type situation. But yeah,
maybe not even to do just like something to steal something. Just erase your identity from the database. Maybe just something tangible. Say.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if you said Mission Impossible style, break into the CIA and hack their computers to delete your identity, that's all you really need to know, isn't it, as a player?
Yeah.
Mission Improbable.
Yes.
Oh, the titles have got to be very bad, like totally not this, right, guys? Like the Asylum level of rip-offery, like Transmorphers or Atlantic Rim, I think it was.
Oh, yes, I know what you mean, yes. Right, well, we have some ideas. I think, yeah, so if we're going to have, even if we have just like 4, we've still going to need to write those adventures, and we want that format of adventures to be simple, easy to write, and also we want anyone to be able to run these. It can't just be the author. The idea is that any of us could run them with a little bit of preparation. So we need to think about how we write those and how we format those. So I think that's a good place to leave it, and maybe we think about that. And so maybe out of those ideas, if you can just take one of them and write it, write a paragraph or two and just start to think about how you would write it in a very simple, straightforward manner. And then we'll compare how we each approach the problem next week. So yeah, we'll leave that there. I think that's good progress, guys. We're doing this informal, so we're not going to have a pluses and deltas this week, but just thoughts on where we are with this concept.
Oh, I'm going to do a plus and delta there.
We'll do a plus and delta if you want.
It's good to be back.
Yes.
Delta. Oh my God, it's getting cold again. That's it. Summer's over, guys. Pack up and go home. I think we've got a good. Sorry, Pat.
I'm going back to my winter hole.
I think progress-wise, I think we've got a good, solid core idea. Now it's just building around it and making a death spell.
Yeah.
Silly nanny shit I can think of. It's just we've got to make the thing around it. We've got the idea, we've got the framework. Now we just need to make it and see how far we can take this. So hopefully we'll get to a level where even I could run it.
Yes. Pat, plus delta thoughts?
I don't really have a plus or a delta, to be honest.
You antisocial man, you.
I'm so tired.
Yes, I think Pat's only thought is, I want to be asleep.
I would very much like to be asleep.
And I think that's a good point to end it. So thank you very much, a very sleepy Pat. Thank you, Josh. We're back next week. Subscribe.
Don't overdo it.
I'm just sort of making up for all the weeks I forget. And yeah, we're back next week. So bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.